Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه. I intend to study and teach, to take and give reminders, benefit and assistance, and to inspire myself and others to hold fast to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to go on to guidance and direct to goodness, seeking the countenance of Allah, His pleasure, nearness, and reward. Okay, so what have we covered so far? Quick recap. Just because it's important that we secure our knowledge before we move on. I already just said it. So I was going to say how many beliefs are there, but I just said there's 7 beliefs. Okay, just quickly, if you're saying them out aloud to yourselves, it's Allah, angels, books, messengers, the last day, predestination, that good and bad comes from Allah, and the life after death. Okay, so now from as the sessions go on, I will be doing a recap, but because we don't want to use too much of the time where I'm asking you and so forth, I'll say them out loud, and then I'm expecting you to be reading them out loud behind your screens. Okay, so we say there's 7 beliefs. Those are Allah, angels, books, messengers, the last day, predestination, that good and bad comes from Allah, and the life after death. Okay, so 7 beliefs. Okay, so the opposite of fard is haram. The opposite of wajib is makruh tahrimi. The opposite of sunnah muakkada is isa'a. The opposite of sunnah ghayr muakkada is makruh tanzihi. The opposite of mustahab is khilaf al-awla. Okay, and then if we're going to go into degrees, the top for the do's is fard, wajib, sunnah muakkada, sunnah ghayr muakkada, mustahab. Okay, and then the don'ts, it is haram, makruh tahrimi, isa'a, makruh tanzihi, khilaf al-awla. Okay, and guys, it's really important that we try and stop memorizing it, do it in an order, write your notes in a way that it's easier for you to comprehend, because otherwise it'll just leave you, as in terms of you it's like as if you had never learned it before. So it's important that we're constantly being reminded of it. Okay, so Surah Nas, where was it revealed? In Mecca or in Medina? Okay, so it was revealed in Mecca and Medina. How many ayahs does it have? 6. And what is it a means of? Protection from evil. Okay, and then we said that the Jewish man that took the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and did black magic on it, his name was Labid bin Asam. Okay, so again, Labid bin Asam. And I'm hoping that you guys are saying that behind your screens and you know it. Okay, so somebody tell me, what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? That indeed those closest to me on the day of standing will be those who send blessings on me the most. Okay, or salawat, depending on how you learned it. Okay, and it's good for you if you're able to memorize this hadith. أولى الناس بيوم القيامة أكثرهم علي صلاة. So if you're finding these sessions are quite easy now, you memorized it well, you know the flow and so forth, then start lifting it in terms of going into a little bit more depth, memorize the hadith. So again, أولى الناس بيوم القيامة أكثرهم علي صلاة. Okay, and so can you put the hadith on us? Okay, so as in we're just going through this as recap. So as in terms of if you're in the group, then these pages should already be in the group that are sent to you. Okay, and then we have the Islamic etiquette, which is to start a task. So the hadith is, any work started without reciting Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is without blessing. Okay, so again, any work started without reciting Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is without blessing. Okay, somebody tell me how tall was Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam? So how tall was he? 90 feet. Okay, what was the name of the prophet who built the ark, or the boat? Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. What is the name of the prophet that had the story of the she-camel that was miraculously produced from the rock? Sayyidina Salih alayhi salam. Yeah. What is the name of the surah in which Sayyidina Idris alayhi salam is mentioned? The Surah Maryam, well done. And in which heaven did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam meet Sayyidina Idris alayhi salam? In the fourth heaven, in the fourth heaven. Okay, and what was the name, what surah number is Surah Hud? What number is it? 11, well done. So this should be nice and easy for you now if you are revising and you're paying attention in the classes. Okay, and then we have Iman Mujmal. We said that there were two conditions in order for us to make our faith complete. The first being that we declare it by our tongue. The second, that we affirm it with our heart. Okay, so remember, to have complete faith is for us to believe in Allah and His attributes and His names, and you have to accept His commands and declare that by the tongue, meaning you're literally saying it, and you have to also affirm it within your heart. Okay, next, somebody tell me, you know the niyyah of your salah, when you say I'm going to recite so and so amount, is that fard? Is it sunnah muakkada? Is it wajib? Yeah, it's fard. When I'm saying Allahu Akbar in my salah takbir, is that fard? Is that wajib? Sunnah muakkada? Sunnah ghayr muakkada? Or mustahab? Okay, so yeah, it's a fard. The subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdika, is that fard? Is that wajib? Is that sunnah muakkada or sunnah ghayr muakkada? Yeah, sunnah muakkada. The ta'awwudh, so a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. The same question, is it fard, wajib, sunnah muakkada? Yeah, it's sunnah muakkada. And the basmala, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, is that a fard? Is that you have to be specific. Whoever's writing sunnah, that's not good enough now in these sessions. So either write sunnah M, so that I know that you understand that it's sunnah muakkada, and there's a difference between sunnah muakkada and sunnah ghayr muakkada. So well done, Haifa, for mentioning that it's sunnah muakkada. So guys, remember, you have to start getting used to the concept that sunnah isn't just a blanket term. We have to be a little bit more specific. Okay, is it sunnah muakkada? Is it sunnah ghayr muakkada? And then in your salah, when we're praying, and the surah that we would recite, Surah Fatiha firstly, is Surah Fatiha, is it fard for me to recite it? Is it wajib? Is it sunnah muakkada or sunnah ghayr muakkada? Well done, Ganwal. So it is wajib for me to recite Surah Fatiha. I've already said Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And then we have surah, any surah. Okay, so I can read Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Falak, Nas. This surah, is it for me, is it fard or is it wajib? Is it sunnah muakkada? And yeah, it is wajib for me to recite. What's the minimum requirement in terms of your surah that you are choosing? How many ayahs do I have to do as a minimum? 3, well done. Okay, so remember, it can be any surah in the Quran. I just have to recite 3 ayahs from it. Okay, and a misconception is that Ayatul Kursi is something that you can recite. How many ayahs is Ayatul Kursi? 1, yeah. So remember that Ayatul Kursi, even though it's a long ayah, it's just 1, which is why it's known as Ayatul Kursi, meaning the ayah, of the throne. So don't think that, just because it's long, I can recite it. It has to be 3 ayahs as a minimum. Okay, well done for that. What was I going to say? Okay, what about the order? Remember how we said that the order of the Quran is that you have to follow when you're reading your surah. So in my first rak'ah, I would recite, let's say, Surah Baqarah, and then in my second rak'ah, I would need to recite a surah that comes after that. Okay, so again, if I read Surah Nahl in my first rak'ah, I would have to make sure that the ayah or the surah that I'm reading after is one that comes after Surah Nahl. That made sense. So we have Kafirun, for example. If I read Surah Kafirun in my first rak'ah, I can't read Surah Fil in my second rak'ah. I have to follow the order of the Quran and make sure you know. And this is why it's very important that when you're memorizing surahs, that you learn the order. Okay, so as in normally with a hifz teacher, they would make sure that you know and you're able to recite in accordance to the order of the Quran, because in your salah you may confuse yourself, or you may miss a surah, and so forth. And so we also said that the order is important, and also that we don't skip one surah. Remember, one surah you can't skip. So for example, the order of the Quran is Surah Ikhlas, then it is Falaq, then it is Nas. If I read in my first rak'ah Surah Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad, in my second rak'ah, I'm not allowed to read Surah Nas. I have to read Surah Falaq because I've just skipped one. Okay, if I skip more than one, that's fine. I can't skip one though. Okay, hope that makes sense. And that is hopefully enough for us to do a little bit of revision, and we will just go up and bring up the next page. Depending on what I find, we've gone through that one. Okay, just give me a second while I find something. So as in, if anyone wants to be added into the group, then please send a message. At least that way you'll get the copies of the pages, inshallah, and then you don't feel that you're falling behind. At least you can read over it, and then when the quizzes and the questions are being asked, then inshallah you can just read over the pages. So leave your numbers. I've got one of yours. Right, jazakallah khair.